is the Honeydew Carpenter, and of course the always beautiful Mrs. Honeydew Carpenter. This is our Saturday morning live show. What did you name it, Dave?
I said living with the rocket mass heater.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, living with it is very, very telling. It's like it's been a 2-year culmination to this point, where we decided to move up, buy a piece of property, and build a cabin and live in it with our rocket mass heater. And the little nuances and the things that I've learned about it are freaking incredible. So yesterday, a friend of ours came over with a thermal camera, and to look at it through, he didn't have like an SD card or anything where he could put some video on it, but we're gonna see if we can get those things and see if we can get him to come back over maybe. But oh my gosh, it was very telling. We walked up on a road where we could see our whole house, and you know, we do have insulation on the roof but none in the walls, and
our whole house was just glowing.
Just glowing. You could see the studs were insulating it a little bit every but it was crazy. And to look at the rocket stove and see the, you know, the secondary burn chamber and where the hot spots in the riser was also very telling. So we are on a kind of an off-grid Facebook page where people who are living off-grid up here in North Idaho just kind of share their experiences. And this morning Melanie showed me one where this gal showed a picture of her stovepipe going up and said, you know, and a picture of this just dripping black creosote water out of it. And she was like, you know, this is a picture of my stovepipe. Can anybody help? And to look at the comments, people were like, oh, your wood's too wet. You haven't seasoned it. This and that and the other. So
you have to have just perfect wood sometimes.
You know, I mean, we're going to do a more detailed video about this whole subject matter, because a couple weeks ago when it got 7 below zero, and then it was really cold in the single digits for 4 or 5 days, we did go through quite a bit of wood. I just had this thing raging just the whole time. It really did save us. I mean, but like right now, it's just maybe 31, 32. It's just a little below freezing. We had a heavy frost last night. It's still frozen outside, so but it, you know, it stays like 65, 70 in the house when it's up in the 30s outside. It's like no big deal, even though we don't have insulation. It kind of is a big deal when you think about it. However, just Melanie asked me, are we going to have enough wood? And we only have maybe a cord left up there, and we've gone through about maybe a cord and a half in the past couple months. Considering we don't have insulation, that's pretty incredible, because I have friends who have already gone through 6-8 cord. But I told Melanie, I said, my stove will burn wet wood, and we have those logs. She goes, but they're laying out in the snow and the grass. And I'm like, it's all right. I can cut them up and we can split them, and my stove will burn them. She goes, are you sure? So I went outside, and there was one under my trailer wheel that I was using as a chalk block. And it was just ice, snow, mud on it. Had been sitting there, hadn't had a chance to cure out at all, you know. And I beat it off, and I wanted to leave it by the stove for an hour or so, just to kind of at least get the outside a little dry or something. And I went out to check on the chickens out in the underground bunker or underground animal shelter or root cellar, whatever you want to call it. And I come back in, I'm like, where's that piece of wood? And she goes, oh, I put it in the stove. I'm like, and yeah, it was just in there just burning away. And so the fact that, you know, you get the stove heated up, I think I could burn just fresh cut wet wood, and as long as I had a quarter of a cord of dry wood, just to make sure I had something to start the thing up with and get it heated up, it would be fine.
Wow.
It acts like a gasifier. So you throw, I went down and from our fruit trees, no less, and I cut a bunch of little branches off of it and shoved it in them yesterday. And, you know, they sit there for a little and you see them start steaming, and then all these little torches start blowing out of it, and then it just is perpetual. It heats up the core, and the core has aircrete insulation around it that holds the heat in, and it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. I don't think there's a stove on the face of the planet that you can just go out and trim live branches and throw it in and do that. Okay, let's check some comments.
Before we do that, I want to say that from a different perspective of someone who isn't as brilliant or creative and knows exactly how it's going to work, and a mom point of view. So I have 2 young boys, and if anyone has ever had boys, you know how rambunctious and crazy and how they can just do something. You're like, why? And they're like, I don't know. You know, I don't have to worry about these boys with this stove. There's one area on it that gets super hot that you do still have to worry about it,
Right.
but it's one area. It's
Right
not
up here.
the entire stove. And so when you have those boys that aren't thinking, that are running around playing, you can be like, you know, obviously your mom's instinct's like, get away from the stove, no horse playing. But I've seen them actually bump up against it, and my heart drops. But then I remember, oh yeah, it's not a normal stove that I grew up with that is going to scald and burn them just from flat out just bumping up against her or getting too close.
Right. Yeah, like, I mean, the stove pipe, you know, kind of protects running into this. And then it, you know, the main frame of it just stays maybe 150 to 175 depending on the part of the stove it's at. You know, you can put your hand on it for a few seconds. You wouldn't want to leave it there. It would start to burn. But like our pets rub up against it. They don't even know that a wood stove is hot.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But
Well, honestly, like, hold on, like, see that dog behind him?
oh yeah, she's right up against it.
They just started like, ooh, that's
They
nice
just
and
know that's their
toasty.
warm spot.
Yeah. All right, so let's check for some comments. All right, so Jeff Krucky says, hi all. Hi.
Hey Jeff, we are excited about you coming up and seeing our property, Jeff.
Yes, you got
Jeff came down and helped us with the shipping container and getting it set up a couple years ago. Good guy. Yeah.
As I hit the camera again. All right, what's up, guys? Charles says, still learning. Tim Fox says, good morning, Darwin and Melanie. Greetings from Mesa, Arizona.
Oh,
Good
awesome.
morning. And hi, keep kicking. I need to be more careful. Joe says, good morning, all. Jeff says, once the design is finalized, I want to build the air-cooled rocket stoves. Yes. I know there's a lot of people that want to do some building and get their own, and it is getting so close.
Yeah, we're just like at brass tacks. And really, a big part, it's like I got stalled and stopped. And, you know, everything happens for a reason. I think maybe it was a God thing. I don't know. But because I got in an accident in 2019, right after we, you know, kind of developed the stove and had the course and did all that. And it's like, it really put the brakes on and stopped me because I had a brain injury and whatnot. And then when we decided we got to keep on moving and come up here, we kind of had to, it was raw land, just 20 acres of just surrounded by forest, a little prairie with creek and stuff. We had to put some infrastructure in. I mean, like 3/4 of a mile of road, a pond, a dike, different things for irrigating and whatnot, and almost 3/4 of a mile of water line, and so it took a while to get to this point, but I'm so glad that we got to live with the stove for a couple of months before I'm finishing the book. It's gonna be a game changer.
Morning, guys. Step Van says hello. Big hugs to both of you guys from MN, Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
Video went blank. Oh no. Charles says it depends on the kind of wood, but you guys know you could help. That's really awesome. Good morning, y'all. Joe says no insulation, just sheeting. That's awesome, right?
So, the comment about the wood, we had about 3/4 wood delivered last year, and we went through, I don't know, a half or 3/4 of a cord. I had a little Potbelly Army stove that I had a coil in, and just a galvanized bathtub in a tent. And that, so every time we wanted to take a bath last year during the winter, we were still in that little 28-foot fifth wheel camper, but every time we had to take a bath, I had to go out and start a fire and make sure the water was running through the coil and whatnot. And when it started to get to temperature, heat up, I basically would supervise the boys taking a bath because I didn't want them to get scalded. And I had to show Melanie and Kylie how to operate this thing.
Yeah, we didn't have water hooked up to our camp trailer at all.
No, we couldn't because it's old. It's an antiquated trailer. It's like a 1994 or something. And, so it would have freezed, In fact, we did hook up water to it this spring after we were able to get it down closer to the house pad and closer to a hydrant, and we had nothing but problems with it freezing right before we got moved in here. We're like, so.
All right. Howdy from Little Ridge Farm. Lola says, I want one. Joe says, good info. Jeff says, is there an Aircrete stove workshop this year? There is going to be one this year, yes.
Yeah.
I might have not figured out a date for that yet, but I'm thinking probably June or July.
Right, and another thing that Melanie and I are going to do, we're going to put up on Etsy, is half-hour consultations with me that we're going to do maybe one day a week. And so there will only be so many a week sold and blocks of time. So for people who have gotten the PDF and for whatever reason, maybe it's going to be a good thing but for whatever reason, maybe they still had some questions or whatnot, then that'll help me find out where maybe for the layman, I didn't explain it well enough, and I can write down all those questions and kind of have some canned answers to them and whatnot.
And don't take offense to a layman. That's me. I'm constantly asking them questions.
Right. And, yeah. Anyways.
Sorry.
But, yeah, we're going to put up on Etsy a half-hour consultation after we get the book out for people who buy it that want to really... that have maybe some questions about it, and then we'll block out a time once a week or whatever, and whoever buys those consultation time or whatever, I'll go ahead and we'll just start calling them up. But Melanie hasn't quite figured out the whole system on how that's going to work, but we're going to do that, and then we want to do some in-person classes for people that maybe have the funds to fly in or drive to where we're at up in North Idaho, kind of similar to the way we did on the first class. But also, we're going to take chapter by chapter and do some video classes that we're gonna put up for people, and they can watch. You know, the people. We had people from South Carolina, Alaska, Oklahoma, Canada.
He's getting a little ahead of himself. That's
Yeah.
a lot. That's stuff we've talked about doing and
Okay,
everything like that. So give me time, you guys. I can't pop it all out at once.
Right.
So, I mean, it's stuff that we definitely have talked about doing,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be immediate or anything.
But there has been a theme on these live shows of people asking about classes and whatnot. But there's so many people interested. It's like we have to kind of figure out some type of an infrastructure system to accommodate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of just 5 or 6 people at a time, you know. And so, you know, we're considering Zoom. We're considering a lot of different options.
I would love to build one up here in Alaska in my workshop, right?
Yeah.
Soon you should be, we are getting the book out hopefully soon, so we're getting really close. Mike says, so glad you guys are doing so well. You kids will have memories their whole lives. I agree with that. I'm happy about that. Joe says, yep, the puppy, she's hogging the heat.
Yeah.
Greetings from my favorite YouTuber couple.
Aww.
Thank you, William. Joe says it's saying a lot, burning green wood, yes. And it was actually quite amazing to see that. We're actually going to plan on trying to do a video just going down and cutting. I don't want to cut down all of our trees down there, but we might trim them, and so we might use some of that as a footage.
Yeah, Melanie, because that was like a real concern from a mom and having her kids here. She's like, are we going to run out of wood? And I'm like, I don't think so, babe. I said, last year I was burning wet logs in it. And she's like, really? Are you sure? And so I showed her, and it quelled her concerns.
Jeff says, looking forward to coming up and seeing you guys in the spring. That'll be awesome, Jeff.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Christian says, I can't wait to build one. I know. I can't wait for you to. Beaver Creek Farm Life says, so happy to see you guys. Joe says, when you can insulate, your wood burner will reduce wood usage to half. It probably would, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at that heat camera and how our house was just glowing. Like, something funny about it is the windows were actually slightly cooler than the plywood, the OSB outside. And I pointed that out to Darwin. He's like, wait, what? And he looks. And so the windows are actually a little bit more insulated than, like, the OSB and everything.
Right.
It's kind of, like, you know, I mean, they're double paned and everything,
right.
But our whole house was just red.
Except for the roof, where we had insulated. It was blue, and you could see a little red line along the ridge line where a little heat was venting out.
Yeah.
I told Melanie to get up there and put the bird stop in, but she just, you know, won't do it.
Beaver Creek Farm Life says, so happy to see you. Joe says, when you can insulate, your wood burner will reduce. Yeah, okay, I read that one. Sorry. He says, howdy, y'all from North Dakota. Been living in a 1975 camper trailer for 5 years. I know frozen water problems. Yes, you do then. Yes. Yeah. Just leave the faucets, drizzle all the time, and it solves the problem. We were leaving it drizzle, and I don't think I left it drizzling enough.
Yeah.
It still froze.
It still froze.
I mean, it was.
So we had to drizzle it even a little faster.
It was -7 that night, right?
Yeah.
And it froze, and I'm like, oops.
Yeah.
Jimmy says it would be cool if a glass view window could be added to the glow and ambience. There is a glass in our little stove.
Oh, he's probably not seen it then. You want to show it to him?
Yeah, let's show it to him.
Okay.
I'm moving the camera.
Oh, it's only like 31, 32 out, so we haven't got it.
But do you see the glass?
Here, let's put a log in, babe. See if we can get it to go. We let it go completely out.
I'll try to hold the camera still.
Yeah. You hear it starting to rocket?
Isn't that cool?
That one log that's in there beside the dry one I just put in is actually a fresh, wet log that I just picked up off the ground. And it would just stay in there and just still burn regardless.
Now this is like heat-tempered glass, right?
Yeah, it is. It's got a crack in it right now because if you aren't careful, this drops down and we broke it. But I'm going to see about getting another piece of that heat-tempered glass.
But isn't that awesome, you guys? I mean, I hope you guys can hear it. But yeah, sometimes I just see Darwin sitting here watching the fire.
And then it glows through the holes when you shut the door. Look, I gotta get that one.
Yeah, so you can see it through the holes a little bit.
But if you want the ambiance of it, you can do that. And at night, when it's dark, it really, that flash of the fire
Right.
just kind of fills the whole room.
Hopefully you saw that and liked that. Hello, beautiful, and Darwin. Hello. That's so sweet. Thank you. Christian is like 3, 2, 1, lift off. We have it, right? You guys can hear that, and that's awesome. Joe says, yes, that's really awesome. How you have that running? It is actually amazing. It's so easy to start and go, and
Except for a couple hours when we went, maybe half a day when we went to Lewiston with the whole family, and that couple hours where we went to that Christmas party. This stove has run 24/7 for a couple months now, like just solid running.
right?
You know, I mean, we let it go down, let the coals just sit there for an hour or so, and then we'll shove a log in. You know, when it's just like up in the 30s or low 20s, it keeps up with this pretty good because, you know, but when it's like single digits and below zero, you just gotta have this thing raging just to have it like 55 degrees in the house.
But I really do think that having insulation and stopping it off of just leaking out is gonna make a huge difference.
Yeah, and it'll be a great laboratory house, meaning, you know, the areas where I put the aircrete in the walls, we'll put a thermal camera on it, and we'll maybe even contrast it with some areas where there's fiberglass insulation. Eventually, guys, I want to get rid of all the fiberglass insulation. I hate it.
Right. So, sounds like popcorn. Yes, that's awesome. Thank you, Little Ridge Farm. Joe says, let's make s'mores. And what's funny about s'mores, we haven't made s'mores, but when I'm like baking and I need like melted butter, I'll take the bowl and I'll just set it like right here. Like right there on the top of it. And it doesn't melt it super fast. It's like a perfect slow, just like a warm up. And you get the perfect butter melted, and it's amazing.
And D'Artagnan fried an egg on the top here. But you kind of have to wait for it to just die all the way down and be little coals if you're going to set a pan right on it. But, I mean, we do have some elevators for, like, the Dutch ovens and whatnot that you could put on it. And, you know, so, I mean, you could cook on it in an emergency.
That's cool because the little I've seen from there wasn't an option. The little I've seen from them wasn't. Oh, okay, awesome. The North Central Montana. That's awesome. The King says, nice. Caught you guys live again. That's awesome. Tim Fox says, we could hear the rocketing sound quite well. It was picked up loud and clear. That's good. Jeff says you need to make another bread oven.
Yeah. As I was going through and finishing the book, obviously I'm going through a lot of old footage from different videos I took when I installed the stove in Julie's house and different things. And I ran across some video of that oven and Melanie cooking bread in it. It was an air-crate oven, so it was kind of looked like a pizza oven. It was a half circle dome. And I also put a second layer for fresh air to go in and flue out, and a damper on top. And man, it worked really good. So you could put it up there on that hot surface on top of the rocket stove, and then it would, heat up and warm up, and you could control the temperature of it by allowing fresh air to flow in the bottom and go up and over between the aircrete and
You guys want to know something super funny? Is our 10-year-old was like, Dad, you need to make Mom an air-crate oven now.
Yeah.
And I was like laughing. It was funny.
She's goes, and what? No, you weren't laughing. You said, I've been asking him to make me one for 2 years.
And Jeff says, please hit the like and share the channel. Yes, please hit the like button and give us a share, you guys. That'd be awesome.
And one thing I am going to really push and ask you guys to do for us when we put out kind of that video where I go down and just grab some live wood or whatever, just cut down a sapling or whatever and cut it into pieces and bring it in and put it in there. Man, I'm gonna want you guys to share that like wildfire. I just don't know that there's another stove on the face of the planet that's designed like this. And it's crazy because I've been throwing handfuls of pellets in it just to kind of watch them burn and see how they gas off and whatnot. And I think when you cure wood out, you lose a lot of the wood gas that's in it. And when you put it in fresh and it's in that gasifier situation where the thing is hot and then it starts shooting these little torches out of it, it's kind of incredible how it burns. And it's a big deal as far as like preppers or survival type situations, which was Melanie's concern. Are we going to run out of wood? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll just go cut some brush and throw in it. It don't matter if it's wet. It just,
It's crazy. All right, do we have any more questions? All right, it looks like we don't have any more questions. Anything you want to say before we go?
I really appreciate you guys hanging with us. It's been a long 2 years coming up, getting enough infrastructure on a piece of raw land, and getting the foundation built to where we can get into a situation where we can live with this stove. But I think it's going to be a way better product in the end, because all the little nuances and the things that I've learned about it from being able to go through, just life, and particularly being uninsulated with it and whatnot. I can say with conviction and everything that it just performed well in these areas, and there's these other changes I want to make, and this is why, and on and on. It's just, but man, it is. I think it's the best stove on the face of the planet. I know I said that once in a, because Julie and Melanie kind of wrote this poem that I did for that initial Kickstarter, and I performed that poem, I guess, in a way, and then Melanie put pictures to it for our Kickstarter commercial. And I went back and re-listened to it, and I'm like, man, everything I said was true. I was just hoping it was true,
Joel says, I think you may actually get higher temperatures when you burn green wood.
Yes, that's He's right. It's like torches up, and it's like this white flame just roaring, and it's more of the gas. And then when you get all the gas and the moisture out, it starts burning like a normal piece of wood, and it's fine. It's not cool like it is when it's wet. But you're right.
Jason says, love you all. We love you guys. It says, consider styro aircrete in your insulation.
Yes, yeah. We want to do different wall sections of the house in different ways. Like I want to do one just aircrete, one with maybe some styro mixed into the aircrete at one level, and then at another level maybe increase it. Maybe some with just aircrete and a lot of perlite. And we're going to make a lab out of our house. Right. It's something we couldn't do in the situation that we were living in, being in a suburb of Idaho Falls in a rental house. It just wasn't going to happen.
Total materials cost to build the stove. Right now we don't know that, Dave. We knew how much it was like 2 years ago.
Or 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
But we really need to go through and do the pricing on everything again, because as you guys know, everything has changed in the last year and a half.
Steel
on.
Okay, so in the fall of 20, Melanie and I were at the bank arranging for a construction loan, and we got different pricing for steel buildings and for cabin kits and different things that we wanted to do, and we were just going to get a construction loan, come up, knock it out in 3 or 4 months, and then just continue raging on with our channel. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening between that October, November, when we set that up with the bank, and then by the time we got up here in April, in May, we go to call in those quotes that they gave us for these cabin kits and these different construction things, and they're like, oh no. Yeah, that the way inflation is right now, price quotes are only good for 2 weeks. And literally the steel building went from like, that I wanted to just, bam, have a shop up, went from like 52,000 to like 126,000. It over doubled. And the cabin kit's like almost 2.5 times. And so you just roll with the punches, and I got some salvage wall panels down in Pocatello, and all of our, show them the girders that's holding up our ceiling for the second floor.
You see those?
Yeah. I made those. Those are actually wall studs, 8-inch wall studs, and I found them on Craigslist, and they had the exact size I needed. Well, I didn't know. I just saw the steel and said, I'm gonna go get it, because it was $300. Mm-hmm. And we had enough to do our whole floor when I took 2 studs and made an I-beam out of them and sandwiched them together. So, yeah.
I remember seeing a willow biomass farm where they mentioned this green wood actually gives more energy once the furnace was up to temperature. Yes, that's so true.
It is. I couldn't believe it. You can't completely fill that 7x7 box with green wood, because it'll, once it starts gassing off and that torch gets going, it's kind of scared me a little bit. It gets a little bit too redder than I like, and so.
Jason, last question, what's the average flight speed of an unladen swallow? That I don't even know. The Clink says about 12% if memory serves. Jason, Chris says Jason H. African or European. Jay says, hi everyone. We have a small box stove and we don't dare burn green wood. It will catch our chimney on fire. We have an old house. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Our stove doesn't make creosote. I'm gonna go grab. So every like two and a half weeks, I'll scrape the what's left from burning the wood in there, and I have some out. I'm gonna go grab it, and I'll show them. It's been rained on.
As I pick the camera again. All right. So Little Ridge Farm says, I'm trying to figure out a new tiny home build. We lost our tiny home November 26th to a fire. Oh no, Little Ridge. I'm so sorry. That is so hard when you lose everything. Here's Darwin with that. So Little Ridge Farm lost their mini house to a fire. They're trying to figure out a good new home build. That's sad.
Oh.
All right. Show them that.
Oh, but anyway, I mean, it's been rained on, but this is what I scrape out, and it you can pack it when it's been rained on. It feels like it's just mineral deposits, what's left from incinerating wood. There's no ash in it or anything. And so this stove just doesn't create a creosote hazard in the chimney. It just doesn't.
So I keep trying to go and put it in my flower gardens, in my garden, and Darwin's like, no, I need that.
Yeah, so when it's dry, you don't get the real effect. But look, I mean, it's wet, and it just, I mean, it doesn't even make your hands dirty.
As your hand is dirty.
Oh, well, that's just, how about that? Is that better? I guess.
Oh, that's funny.
Maybe some of those logs were dirty we put in there, babe.
Little Ridge says she can't pay high prices, or they can't. Yeah, we understand that. It's been really difficult. So what we've been doing is, I mean, it took some time. We poured our cement pad, and it sat here for months without us doing much. And then we put the steel beams up that we got.
Or the wall panels. We put the corners and stuff up.
We got that from a steel building that they were tearing down. And Darwin stopped by and goes, how much you want for that? And offered them, and they loaded our trailer up, and we came with that. And then the rest we found on Craigslist. It's been slow going, but like the windows, Craigslist, we found a great deal on them. And
you don't even want to know. Melanie, I was up working, and Melanie calls me and says, hey, this lady said, not in a town just adjacent of us, says she has these windows and she wants them out of her shed or whatever. And she goes, I think there's like 8 of them. And I was like, okay, and I stopped whatever I was doing, and I came down. I'm like, let's go get them right now.
They actually ended up being bigger than I thought.
Yeah, we got them for $400, 8 windows, and some 6x8, 2 of them, and then a 5x5 and a 3x5.
So what I'm saying is, if you're patient and just willing to kind of look and scour Craigslist and other places around you, you might be able to find something.
It takes faith to bring these types of things to fruition and manifest them into your life sometimes. But I'm telling you, if you're bound and determined, it's a God thing. I don't know what it is. It just seems, and you have faith that it'll happen. It just comes.
Jeff did say that the prices are starting to come down, and they are
did.
Some, yeah. And Ahmed wants to know J-tube rocket stove versus yours. Which one is efficient?
A J-tube would be just fine. I actually want to make a J-tube, the same that I've got it. But the reason my stove works completely different than most rocket mass heaters, Erica and Ernie Weisner wrote a book on it. Julie gave me that book, and I read it, and I remember telling Melanie, this just doesn't make sense to me, because they were positive pressure systems. The rushing air in the insulated riser was what pushed the air through the whole system. Some even claim they could just exhaust downward. And it was like, when I read that book and I kind of did the math, so I created my own math. And so I have a batch box, a restriction area, an open secondary burn vortex area with a fresh air inlet, which then restricts back down. And so what it ends up happening is you have a kind of a slow burn in the batch box. It's restricted, it gets faster, and then it gets slower again, and then faster again. And that creates kind of like a tornado where a low pressure and high pressure go by each other. It just starts it whipping and spinning. And when this thing gets red, it's a perfect circle on top, a donut with a little red dot in the middle, because of how it's spinning. And so I don't think it matters whether it's a batch box or a J-tube. It's the exhaust system and the aircrete insulated section of stovepipe that make the thing work. And so that'll be something that, you know, if you really want to get into it, you can buy the instructional booklet and manual and do some of the classes that we're planning on doing.
Jay says, yes, cool, thank you. Jeff says, ESP lumber. Jay says, very cool, sorry to hear that, wow. Jeff says, I want to produce aircrete panels and rocket stoves, little shed packages. Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Ahmed says, I have not seen any videos show how it burns in something like vortex rocket effect. I'm in the middle of making a video. Hopefully I'll get that out soon, okay? How much was the stove cost 3 years ago? Just for all the pieces.
All the pieces and parts, it was about $600-700.
Okay.
You know, and one of the most expensive things is the alumina cement.
Yeah.
You know, that you make the fire bricks with.
Little Ridge Farm says, I've got some ideas to build a home. I'm avoiding shed homes. I'm doing videos on my channel. That's awesome, Little Ridge Farm. And Jay says, we picked up, besides the curb rocket stove, with a big tank and a small tank, and inside it for a downdraft inside. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, it's 42 minutes. We kind of need to go, but you guys have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you guys later.
All right. Love you guys.